Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, no matter where you are in the world. This is Jock here, and I have a great guest today. We're going to talk a little bit about audio stuff. Now, I'm actually going to turn my earphones round, guys, because I've got a trailing freaking wire over here, so let's see. And now I've got it back to front where the right is on the left and the left is on the right, but there we go. So, there we go. Welcome. Welcome, my guest, Cliff, who has actually done a fair bit of work for me in the past in terms of audio. We're going to hear his story. I'm going to hear his story, how he got into this type of work. And while I've been coaching leaders and executives and people in high-level positions, I've always looked towards this guy for audio advice and also to get custom music for our campaigns. And if anybody's interested in politics, then you can check out the one that we had for the NC11 campaign here in North Carolina. Cliff, my man, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Great. Doing great.
Yeah, great. Let's get on with it. It's like, well, I've never done one of these before.
No. So let's see. What should we chat about?
We can chat about everything. So let's just jump back to your desire or your, I know that you've come through a lot. Now, ladies and gentlemen, most people that I interview have always overcome many different things in their life, and Cliff is no different. So we'll hear a little bit about his kind of backstory, and then we'll jump into the music side of things. The music really is the kind of spice of life. But give us a little backstory on you, Cliff, and we can then move that on.
All right. So I got into music creation about 25 years ago because I got a guitar. My sister had a guitar. And I used to be really into like the heavy grunge of the 90s, and it was the best time to learn guitar because everything was four chords or power chords on our electric guitar. So I got in that way. And then eventually that turned into being interested in mixing and mastering and things. The first thing that piqued my interest was when I went to the Experience Music Project in Seattle, visiting my uncle out there, and we popped in there and they had this cool little studio. You could run in, you could jump on any instrument, record 3 minutes real quick. And so that started piquing my interest. And I've always had an ear for sound. So it all converged probably about 15 years ago when I realized you could record in your bedroom. So I was like, okay, great. All I need is a few things, snatched them up, started practicing, learning what I could. I did 4 years of hip hop production, independent hip hop production in Charlotte. So that gave me a lot of experience with the engineering side of things. And of course, I've always been composing. I got into songwriting about 3 years ago. So now I just, I'm dipping my toe wherever I can, essentially.
And you've released a song recently. Well, actually, the third song, but your first one that you released is pretty much tells the story about your background and stuff, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's called At the Edge. It was a song.
Pretty freaking good, to be honest.
Thanks.
I remember Joe listening to it and going, is that him? Is that really him? I'm like,
that's the magic of the studio. But yeah, so that song is about the last time. Okay, so I was an opioid addict for about 7 years in total. It was a struggle on and off constantly. And
you look good for 50 years old.
Hey, I'm 62, Jock.
Oh, come on.
No, but yeah, I turned out looking like I have never been on drugs, so that's cool. But yeah, so I was on drugs. It started, with pills, and then of course transferred over into heroin, which transferred into from just snorting it, shooting it. So I've seen some things, and lots of stories to tell. And honestly, a lot of material to derive from when I'm writing songs, because it was some pretty deeply emotional things. So you'll notice that the theme of the last few songs I've done are pretty dark, and it's because they're centered around those years of my life.
Yeah, they are actually, and I've noticed that. And actually, it's something that I said to Joe as well. It is dark, but it's the dark times. Do you think that music will evolve into something like more positive?
Well, actually, yes. The next song that I'm going to release is it's called "Hold On Tight," and it's actually a love song I wrote for the girl that I'm with now. You know Jenna.
We don't know Jenna.
Yeah, you do. But yeah, so I wrote
Shout
that.
out to Jenna, who's I would say it's a professional photographer now. She's got.
Yeah, yeah, she's doing pretty well.
I take a little bit of kudos for getting her
Yeah,
that
yeah, you
interest
do.
into
You
that.
should. Yeah, you
I
should.
pushed her into that.
I know. You gave her great advice right off the
Yeah,
bat.
that's right.
But yeah,
She's doing
so
well.
she is doing well. She just did a shoot a couple days ago with a client coming in for like 1 year anniversary for Asheville.
Yeah, she was telling us.
All right, so yeah, with that song, it's a love song, of course, but it's actually centered around the reluctance to enter a new relationship because of past issues that you got from your past relationships. So that's what the song is about.
I nicknamed them the yo-yo couple, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, that's right. Jock coined that term. It is copywritten. Yeah, so anyway, that's what that new song is about. So, I mean, yeah, I'm sure it will evolve. I mean, when you listen to my instrumentals, you can hear a lot of intensity in those too. But some of those are happy little piano pieces, that I did. Because, sometimes it's just I'm in that mood. I really roll with the mood that I'm in for the songs that I'm writing. And the words are actually derived from, of course, my past, but the music also. So the melody is actually going to drive the writing of the words too. So this new one I'll be releasing, shh, don't tell her. I'm recording it for her birthday.
Now, you realise that when is her birthday? Because now I cannot put this.
You can't do it until July 1st.
No, so ladies and gentlemen, this podcast is not going to come out until next week.
Yeah, that's right. Cool.
After the holidays.
Yeah,
which is
so
good.
She's aware that I'm going to be recording it, but I'm just like, I figured I wanted to do it now because I got my first few out, and it'll be a little change of pace, but it's a great song. It's written on acoustic, so I'm gonna have to. I'm really just gonna convert it to electronic, essentially. I might keep the acoustic in there. I don't know, but that was what it was written on. But it's a happier tone. Sure.
Personally, I think your acoustic. I mean, yes, you do some amazing stuff with your electronic stuff, but your acoustic work is really good. I mean, obviously, you play very well as well.
Yeah, you like that?
I do like that. Yeah, the vibe is good. It's crisp.
Okay. Crisp. I know. I figured out the trick to that one.
I see.
The guitar sounds good. Yeah, we took little tricks here and there, but the playing. I mean, of course, it has to be tuned. All right, but yeah, that's my next thing I'm gonna do.
How important has music been to you in your development?
As far as life?
Through your life, because obviously, I mean, you've shared a little bit with me, and obviously you've shared a little bit, on here on the podcast, but I would say, how important do you think music has been to you in your life for getting you through those times? And also, how important do you think music is in general in everybody's life?
Okay, so music is a total anchor in my life. Of course, I got into it. Here's the thing. Coming out of addiction, you have to remember who you are. And it's hard to do that because you've lost yourself. Mm-hmm. So going into it, before I ever got into pills or anything like that, music was my drive, my passion. I think about it every day. And any project that I was working on, I would hum it to myself at work, and it would get me through those long, hard days at work. So it was always a great crutch for me. I mean, it's much more than a crutch, but you know what I mean. And coming out of addiction, one thing I definitely noticed was that I had been listening to the same songs and the same artists and the same playlists for over 7 years at that point, and just driving myself crazy and not even realizing it, And when I came out, I was like, I got to find some new music. All I had time to do, I mean, I came out of addiction. I'd lost my car, my ID, my consciousness. That's a whole other
your
story.
Identity. You'd lost everything, really.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Identity is a great word. Identity theft actually would be a good song title.
That's a great term. Actually, I was going to say that's the next. That'll be the next song in August.
Okay.
Identity theft.
All right. Yeah, so that's how I felt. When I came out, I had to remember who I was again. But music was always there to help mirror me back to myself, So when I came out of it, one of the biggest groups that I found was called Glass Animals. They're huge. Everybody knows who they are now. But then there was Alt J and a couple of other electronic alternative artists that I liked. But getting that new music into my ear helped awaken me back out of that coffin that I was in.
So let me ask you then, do you think, I mean, I haven't asked you the question of why did you get into the drugs? Why did you get into the opioids? And that is a question I want to ask you. But it seems like to me that the dark or the music that you were into for 7 years probably played a bit of a, I don't know, fuel for what you were going through. Maybe your negativity. Maybe, I mean, was it a key player in
Yeah,
your situation?
adversity. I mean, adversity was what. So I'm writing post. I'm writing. Then none of this was written during that. That's the thing about being addicted and losing yourself like that. You can't really create because you're not absorbing. So this is all after the fact. After I was reawakened, essentially, that I started writing all this. But yeah, it's definitely fueled by. Is that a spot on my screen or on the camera? Oh, on the screen. Okay. Anyway, it's definitely fueled by
has frozen.
the darkness. It's fueled by the darkness because without the darkness, you'll never see the light. So it's very important for you to know things like that. Where the separation is between the two, also for balance. But I definitely pull everything that I've written lyrically from darkness, probably musically too. But that's a little more intuitive than words.
All right, so we're just jumping back. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you see a glitch in the actual show, it was because something freaking weird happened. And I think you went, wow.
I mean, I don't think so, but dude, this spectrum out here where I'm at, it's unpredictable. I actually just tried to call him. It wouldn't even ring. So I don't know right now. I'm going to have to look into that.
Well, I got 510 megabytes a second, so I am good. Okay.
Okay.
Make sure you're not in incognito mode. That's fine. That's fine. Just going to do that later. Anyway, we were having a really good conversation there. We were talking about how important it was music, and music was your anchor to everything that you were going through, and you were kind of changing things, being a little bit lighter with the mood. But I think before we were rudely interrupted by the ether and bad internet service providers, i.e. Spectrum, you had mentioned that, or I had asked you a question about the music that you were listening to the 7 years before you got into the new stuff, the 7 years that you had. Was that dark music? Was that kind of music that was like friggin' depressive and pushing you into that thing?
Yeah.
Right.
So before I got into, like I said, I got into like the grunge rock era, but I was really big into Korn. And if you know anything about Korn, they're very angry. And I was too at the time.
Is that the kind of stuff where they're like, and it's supposed
pretty
to
much,
be music?
yeah, they're pretty pissed off most of the time. And it was like it played right into my teen angst and all that, and then that followed me into my 20s. So there were.
So then, how
like
did that then transcribe into you getting into the drugs?
Okay, well, here's what happened with the drugs. I finally figured out what I was. I'm not running too hot on audio, am I? I sound fine over there?
Seems to be, yeah, you're sounding good. You're coming through good.
All right, so yeah, with the drugs, it started with, it was multiple things that were hitting me, from like all fronts. I was in a relationship that I wasn't happy with, but stayed in because I was comfortable. I mean, that was one of them. That was one of the things. And then there was also a ceiling that I hit. I was in Myrtle Beach at this time, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And we were playing live shows. I was playing with a band, actually. And at the time, all of us had a lot in common. We were all heavily influenced by Korn. We all met Korn together. It was just this great full circle thing that happened with my, my rock days. But around that time, actually, parts of my band were getting into drugs. Heavier drugs, opioids. And I had dabbled a little bit with Percocet and things like that. But I wasn't, full on with it because to me, my music career is my main focus. I was the leader of this band. This was the 8th band I had. I booked all the shows. I held up all the practices. I was the band, essentially, as far as the work goes. Now, they would show up and do great songwriting, just some of the greatest people I've ever collaborated with. But slowly but surely, we started dropping like flies out of the band. Next thing you know, I'm looking around, I'm the only one there. So I was like, okay, well, I just got into audio engineering. So I was like, I'll try to go find some work out here. So a lot of the clubs, they had free soundmen that would come in and just do sound for alcohol. And I was like, okay, I want to get paid. So I went to try to go to House of Blues. Finally got through to get an interview set up and was turned down. He said, you need more experience, which is understandable. But I wasn't ready to hear that. And as far as I could see, there was no future in music in Myrtle Beach. And I didn't see really a way out. So what I would do is instead of facing that, maybe getting out of the relationship, maybe facing my problems, then I wouldn't have turned to drugs every single day, because every single day I didn't have to deal with them when I was high.
Were you depressed then because you couldn't achieve what you believed was your objectives or your dreams of
Yeah,
I
and it
don't want to
wasn't.
say stardom, but in the music industry?
Yeah, I mean, I was coming around to the realization that it first of all doesn't come that easy. I also had no real strategies that I was implementing with the band. We never had any recorded music, so that's why I got into audio engineering. Because when we went to a studio, I had someone that recorded me, and then attempted to mix it, and it was just terrible. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I can do this. So I started doing it, and that was why, was because I knew I needed some recorded music to even try to promote it. So that was all happening at the same time that my band was falling apart, and I was hitting that ceiling. But it's adversity. It's something that you're going to face. I just didn't press through, and I was also dealing with other problems that I wasn't, dealing with. So in the face of adversity, you have to be persistent, of course. But I was also neglecting facing the problems that I had at the time and dealing with them head on. And so all of that just kind of everything started to crumble around me in that way. And then I started, taking pills just on the weekends. I'd pop a couple pills and
then it
maybe
escalated.
yeah. And then next thing you know where it ends. So that was how it started.
It reminds me of that film, a film. That's my Scottish accent coming out, ladies and gentlemen.
That's two syllables. Film.
It's a film. The Scottish film of Train Spotting. I don't know if you remember that back in the day, which was all about that.
Yeah, that movie.
Your analogy kind of reminds me a little bit about that.
I mean, that movie was great. It was it was spot on.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm saying, is you fell into that dark. So what was the catalyst for you, Cliff? What was I've got to get off this shit?
Hi, the end of that story is I had just started experimenting with meth too, right?
Ooh.
So now I'm I'm shooting heroin. I shoot meth one time, and I realized that the high lasts longer. You can avoid your withdrawal symptoms from the heroin with it, and it's cheaper. So of course, that was what I started to turn into. And somehow I ended up shooting what I believe to be fake meth, or something that was just not cooked right, or I don't know what it was. But I ended up in the hospital. Now, I'm a diabetic. When I was on Suboxone, which is a supplemental drug to keep you off of heroin and things like that, it affected my health to where next thing you know, I got gut issues, and then I'm diabetic. I'm diagnosed as a diabetic type 1. And so, of course, I got to take insulin with needles. So I wasn't shooting at the time, but it was only a matter of time. I'm a heroin addict with needles laying around. So I ended up shooting up about a year and a half before it came to a head. When it came to a head, I was in Myrtle Beach. Now, I had bounced back and forth between Myrtle Beach and Charlotte for quite a few years at this point.
Yeah.
But I was in Myrtle Beach, and I was homeless at this point. I was sleeping on the beach or in my car most of the time. And unless I was sleeping on, like a friend's couch. But then I had a friend that came.
Not many friends want you, though, when you're suffering through all that stuff.
No, they don't. And I have some now that I have that are more solid in my life than anyone else could ever be, because they came through. And they gave me a couch to sleep on. They realized that I had a problem probably about a month in, especially when I couldn't pay my rent. They forgave my debt. And then next thing you know, while I'm over here living on the couch and chasing drugs, I end up shooting up that fake meth. My blood sugar skyrockets and will not come down, no matter how much insulin, And but at this time, I'm using my only $30 to buy my vial of insulin from Walmart, walking back out to the car, taking it, drinking as much water as I can, hoping for the best, but really just in and out of consciousness that whole day. And then finally, I come to once in the parking lot of a of like an auto yard where they take, or salvage yard or something like that. It was where they take a lot of the cars that they repossess or that they tow in Myrtle Beach. I wake up in the gravel by trying to get to a water spigot. No lie, I'm on my hands and knees trying to get to a water spigot. And I finally get to the water spigot. I remember this. This is crazy. I finally get to the water spigot, turn it, and nothing comes out. It was one of the most devastating things I've ever dealt with in my life. So I look over and, right across the parking lot, there's a few people. There's storage units out here, and I think they're looking at a storage unit, and I call out help. I've never had to scream help in my life, but I did that day. And when I did, I fell out again. I came to in the back of an ambulance in that same parking lot. Well, he saw the track marks on my arm. He knew, that I was an addict, and he just
straight away.
He kept trying to tell me. He kept saying, "Why are you feeling like this? Are you on any drugs?" He was trying to squeeze this out, and I was like, yes. I didn't say yes, but the main problem was that my blood sugar was so high that my blood felt like it was boiling, and I was extremely dehydrated. And I kept trying to tell him, I need insulin, water. I'm a diabetic. He didn't want to hear that. He was just so caught up on my drug habit that he didn't care. Yeah. So I was like, pleading with this dude to give me water and insulin, and I'm sitting on a gurney in the back of the ambulance, having no idea what's going on. I fall out again. When I come to down the road, I can look out the back of the window and tell I'm going down the highway towards the hospital, Grand Strand Hospital, and I start hallucinating very severely to where I see, no lie, a pile of human bones in the corner of this ambulance. I think they're taking me to hell for sure. I knew it with every bone in my body, and I thought that this paramedic was not out looking out for my best interest. So I'm like holding him off with a one arm, looking for something to hit him with, and I fall back out again. So now I wake up.
You think he's like Satan incarnate?
That's what I thought. Him and his driver. I was like, I know where you're taking me, man. And this is really happening. And so I get to the hospital, and pass back out, of course, and then I wake up in this tiny little room, and I hear these two nurses talking. And I don't know if my eyes are open or not. I couldn't tell you any of that. I just know that I heard them talking. And they started talking about Narcan, which is what they use when they think they have an OD victim. Mm-hmm. Okay, maybe it was applicable at the time, but I knew I wasn't, out because I heard them talking about it. So I waited for a second. I heard them leave the room, and I got up, and I'm like, maybe they're still gone out of the room. And I opened the door I'm in my gown, ass hanging out, and I peek out the door into the hallway, and I noticed there's daylight, so I bolt towards the door. I'm escaping the hospital, essentially, is what's happening right now.
With your ass in tow, the white ass hanging out of there.
Yeah, my gown flapping and everything. And so people are looking at me like I'm crazy, because I was, and I'm running out the front door, and I finally get to the parking lot, and I realize where I am. And I'm like, I am miles from the house. My car is long gone. I have no idea where it is. So I dive in the bushes. I literally dive in the bushes, and got a little scratched up, bloodied up. And next thing you know, they're coming out there. This dude finds me over there in the bushes. I'm sure somebody saw me dive in there. And the guy comes out with a wheelchair.
I think your white ass would have given it away.
That was what it was. They saw the reflection from miles, Jock. So anyway, they end up, this guy comes out with his wheelchair, and he goes, "We're going to get you inside, buddy." And I'm like so comforted by his words. I'm like, I'm just tired of running. I'm tired of running. And so they bring me to ICU, to get my blood level, my blood sugar in check and all that. And I'm out for about 2 days. I'm unconscious for about 2 days. When I wake up, I have a doctor, a nurse, and a security guard in my face. And he's trying to get me to tell him that, I'm a heroin addict. So he's trying to squeeze out of me. That's really all he wants from me.
He just wants you to get to admit it. Yeah.
He wants that, which is good on one hand. But I wasn't ready. I didn't want to do that. I knew that was what the case was. It was already admitted to myself, but it was just, you're that exhausted after that many years. You're just laying there thinking, I just need to lay here for a while. I'm on rock bottom, and I need to lay on this rock for a little while and rethink things,
And that's where you got to.
Yeah, so I ended up, that was in Myrtle Beach. That was 4.5 years ago. Actually, almost 5 whenever October comes around. But I ended up calling my dad. I was like, I had to call Dad actually a week before that, told him that, I was in a bad place. So when I called him from the hospital, I was like, I need somewhere to go. I was like, Myrtle Beach is not good for me. Neither is Charlotte. And he's like, well, just come up here with me. I'm in Weaverville, which is right outside of Asheville, and you can just stay here and get reestablished. And I was like, okay. So we made arrangements. I stayed on that other couch that I was on when I ended up in the hospital for about 3 weeks. Then stayed at my dad's for about 3 weeks, and then finally started rebuilding my life, knowing that it was going to be one step at a time, one day at a time. I just had to keep a level head. And it's hard to tell people that, my story. I didn't tell anybody my story, my past, until maybe a year into living here, because there's a stigma that comes with that. So
do you think you had a fear about what people would think about you? Because I remember, I mean, the reality was we met because we went into a restaurant and you were working tables, one job at a time, before you opened up Elevate Music Production.
Yeah.
And we could tell that obviously there was a battle that, most people can't tell that there's battles going on inside of people. And as you know, Joe and I can. So, did you feel that you had to hide yourself from the fear of being labeled or for being judged?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And how did it feel when you actually let it out?
It felt pretty good. Now, you see, it wasn't, of course, Dad knew what I was going through.
Oh, obviously, yeah, but other people
but of course, that was that release, that release of pressure, I guess. But with everyone else, it was more like, if I tell them after 6 months of them seeing that I'm not just going to jump back on the needle or anything, then they're going to accept it a lot easier than if I tell them, hey, I just got off the needle yesterday, So I knew where I was. I was totally at peace, actually. I'm going to tell you something, Jock. When I was out for 2 days, I didn't go anywhere. I didn't see anything. But I woke up with this insane peace. This I say insane. That's not the best descriptive word for peace, but it was peace that came out of nowhere.
Especially when you said you were insane going in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was insane going in, and then I was insane coming out.
Well, the peace was like something I never experienced before. It was like, previous to this, I also had a lot of religious questions that would rattle around in my head.
Yeah.
So much that it was just stressful. I woke up without any of those anymore. I woke up with just an understanding, I guess. So that was my strength, and it was within me, So I knew that I'm a social person, very social. So I knew that I would establish my social life. That's why I went to 131 Main, where I met you, was because I wanted to.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're not always in there eating this restaurant.
They get the burger. They get the burger.
Steady. This is steady on.
I'm just kidding. Garden salads all day.
Well, actually, no. I do eat a lot of salads. It's Joe that
that's true. That's true. You do. Yeah. So, anyway, that. It's hard to explain, but I can say that, there was fear. I mean, there was definitely fear in me telling these people this, because I'm just meeting them. I don't want to polarize myself, especially at my new job, So that's an issue that I dealt with, but in a strong way. That's the thing. It wasn't like I knew where I was. And that was the most important part, is that I knew that I was done with that.
I remember when you also opened up to us. I mean, obviously you found out exactly who we were, what we had done and how, but I remember that you opened up to us, and it was like, for me, it was like, you freaking owned that. You owned it. You didn't hide away from it. You did. You were like a warrior. You were like, this is what I've got over. I freaking did it.
Yeah, because that's what it is. Because when you overcome that, it makes you stronger, for sure.
And now you've changed so dramatically. I mean, obviously you met the love of your life, the yo-yo wife.
Yeah, that's right.
Although not a wife yet, Jenna. We're still working on that one. But you then jump back into music. I mean, music was always your passion, and you didn't stand still. It wasn't for you that, okay, I'm just going to wait tables all my days. You had a vision that you wanted to go back to that. And what kind of got you going back into the music scene?
So, of course, the new music. you hear new music as a creator, you want to make more music. You know, it's one of the best ways to actually break writer's block is to find new music. I'm actually going to do a YouTube video about that soon. Just like
That's
5
awesome.
ways to do that. But yeah, it's the most important way to break writer's block is to find inspiration. That's all it is. I found inspiration in the new music that I found. My dad gave me his old guitar, so I started playing on that, and that's when I started singing. That's when I started, like, I was like, oh, I'm going to develop my voice, you know? And I was like, oh, I'm hitting at least 3 out of these 1,000 notes. You know, I could go somewhere with this. I was like, you know, so I started playing.
I'm hitting 3 notes. Here we go. I used to be able to hit a lot of notes, but no, I can't.
Oh, yeah? Yeah, I know. You said you were an opera singer.
Well, we've spoke about that. I still want to come and record with you. That's definitely on the cards. But yeah, I found since coming to North Carolina with these allergies and stuff like that, you can hit 3 notes. I'm lucky if I can hit 2. It freaking kills me. But, you know, yeah, so jumping back to you, you definitely had changes. And I noticed as well that when you I actually noticed when you started getting back into the music side of things, your demeanor and everything changed.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. You started coming, you were more, I want to say outgoing because you've always been outgoing, but I think you could express yourself a lot more. There's a lot more excitement about what you were doing, I was thinking.
Yeah, it's that same excitement that I leaned on when I was working in restaurants in Myrtle Beach as like a teenager essentially. So it was the same thing I was leaning on. So of course that was what helped pull me. That was the rope that I grabbed to pull me out of the quicksand. But not because the quicksand already tried to kill me. Yeah. I was just sitting still in it at that point, you know.
Just trudging your way, actually.
Yeah, yeah. Like I had come to the conclusion that I wanted to get better. It was just rediscovering myself. You know, that was really what needed to happen.
Do you think you're still trying to find yourself, or do you think you've actually found yourself now?
Well, I think that things are always changing, you know, but I know most of who I am, you know. I mean, you know, like circumstances can affect that. It can affect the way that you change. Age can affect that, but it's really just the things you've been through. Sure. But as far as knowing who your core self is, that's important. And, you know, you develop that pretty early on in your life. So, you know, up to about 25, 30 years old, you're still developing a lot of that and establishing yourself as who you are. So by the time I came out of this and, you know, got back into music and everything, yeah, I was very sure of who I was. And that's important. But it did take a little time because I had to remember who that was. And if there were things that I didn't realize, like, you know, like I said, I wasn't facing certain problems and issues, paying my bills. That was one of them. I had a problem paying my bills. So, you know, it was like these little issues that I didn't deal with. Now I'm dealing with.
I remember as well when you got your car.
Yeah, my car. That thing. I just paid it off like a month ago.
Dude, that's awesome. Because when I met you didn't have one. You were
walking around.
You were walking and you're getting that white ass of yours up the hill.
Working on it. Yeah.
On it. And you did. And so before we jump on to Elevate Music Production then, what would you say to people that are out there that might have been in your position or are going through that now? What can you say to them to give them the spark to do what you've done?
What people that are still dealing with addiction, or
people that are maybe coming out of addiction, still feel they're lost. People that are maybe even getting into that, you know, feeling that they're going down that route. You know, you've been there. You've faced those demons and you've slayed them. You know, what can you tell them that might change their direction?
Anybody that's going in that direction, there comes a point where you look around and you do know there's a problem. I identified it very early on with the pills when I was only doing it every other weekend. I remember the weekend started coming around again, and I thought about it. I want to get those pills, and I remember thinking, no, I shouldn't. But then I remember thinking, I'm going to anyway. And that was really the defining moment as to where I knew that problem was starting, and I can trace it right back to that one thought that I had. Wow. But what it was that it was the problems I didn't want to deal with. There are deep-rooted problems in every addict that are not dealt with. I can tell you that for sure. So how do
you think an addict then now who's going into, you know, going down that path that you were going down? What would you say to them? How can they deal with their issues now that they're going through?
Well, there's a lot of good advice in the 12 steps. I mean, there's moral inventory. I mean, that was the biggest thing because moral inventory is where you have to actually sit down and identify the
You're
problems that you
talking the
might
12
have.
steps, like Alcoholics Anonymous 12
Yeah.
steps, that type of thing.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, they
Okay.
help. They help. I didn't, if I wasn't fully invested in that whole system, I think that there are a lot of flaws in that system, but I do like the 12 steps. I think they're good guidelines.
Absolutely. And if you recognize them for that, then there's nothing wrong with that going through that process.
Right. Yeah. Definitely look into that. That can definitely help. But also, you have to understand them. When I first read the 12 steps, for me, it was like, oh, this is what they want me to do. It's like a textbook. I got to read through it, and I'm not going to retain half of it because I don't care. So you really need to focus on what they're trying to tell you with the 12 steps.
And do you think that's a good starting point for somebody who's maybe going to do that?
Yeah, I think so. NA or AA for sure. Only thing that is dangerous with NA or AA, I know they have sponsors. Sponsors are the best things you're going to get at AA or NA. But you do have peers who are in and out constantly of their addiction or dealing with that addiction. They're clean one day, they're not clean the next. Just be careful of that. Be wary of that. But other than that, yeah, I think it'd be helpful.
So now we jump on, and you've got Elevate Music Production, which I've used professionally for my clients and will always use it for my clients. But where do you go now with it? When did you start Elevate Music again, and what's your vision for the future?
So I started this about 2 years ago. I wanted to get in. Now, see, I used to do hip hop recording and all that. So I did that for 4 years under the label Tin Can Music. And so this one, Elevate Music, was a new idea. And originally, now Elevate it's because we're in Asheville. I was driving up my driveway, which was like ridiculously elevated. And I was like, wait a minute, I elevated my life. I came out here.
Yeah.
I brought myself higher, inside.
Without the drugs, ladies and gentlemen, he went
higher.
Right,
yeah.
He went higher. He went higher in vibration, not higher in,
Not higher on things, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you see what I'm saying? Like, it was just this weird little realization. I was like, oh, that's a great name. So I get back to the house. Me and Jenna design a logo. She helped me design it. And then she actually, it was hand drawn logo, and then she digitized it, whatever the word is, for me in Photoshop. And then, so now, you'll see that logo on all my stuff. But I was like, okay, cool. This is great. I got the name, I got the idea, I got the logo. What did I want to do? So one of the things I wanted to do was help people build their recording studios. I was going to do that locally here in Asheville. Just go around. If someone wants a bedroom studio, they're going to need to know everything about audio. They're going to, if you learn it on your own, it'll take a while. So I can really shorten that time dramatically, and also help you with the budget, because, some people, they want just a recording studio for a hobby, and with hobbies, you probably want to spend $500 to $1,000, probably no more than that. And you're going to need to know what you need for that. And considering I've done this so many times, I know it very well. Everything from how audio works to the medium that you use to manipulating it and everything else.
Let's go back to you were going to do it around Asheville, because for some reason my internet then went.
Oh, am I still here?
Yeah, you're still here, but my internet went when we went around the Asheville thing. So you were going to do it around Asheville?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so what I wanted to do was help people build their studios, recording studios, podcast studios, whatever they were doing. You need a guy that knows sound for that. So what I would be helpful with that business is not only teaching them everything they need to know, they also need to know how to use the program or the software that they're using to capture and manipulate the music or just the audio. And mastering, there are so many different levels to it. So I would help with all those things, everything from building the studio all the way up to recording, editing, mixing, and mastering, wherever they would need it. Really, it would just be the initial, let's set you up, get you started. I'll show you how to record, stop, and then play it back. And then anything you need from me from there on out can be consultations. But the initial setup would be a free consultation to set you up with your studio in Asheville, or your recording space, whatever it may be.
And I can recommend it, ladies and gentlemen. And if you're hearing and you're thinking, okay, well, Jock's audio sounds really good, well, that's probably the reason why. And if you can think his audio sounds pretty poor, it's because he broke something before we came on. Like,
Yeah, it's called a shot now.
And I'm like, so don't be sending any emails or messages in saying, dude, your audio guy didn't, like, he broke something. Shit happens. And so we still, as you'll see with this podcast, so we still went on. And I can definitely vouch. I can definitely vouch for your skills and vouch for everything that you want that you've done, because you've helped. If you've got an idea, I came to you with an idea. My client, who's a political candidate, and he says, I love this. I'm like, you can't use that. That's like Bon Jovi freaking owns that song. There's no way you're going to do it. But I came with an idea to you, and you came up with brilliance. That became
boots on the ground, yeah.
Boots on the ground. I won't even freaking put it underneath in the show notes. This is what he came up with. It became synonymous with that campaign. And so, ladies and gentlemen, if you really want your own identity with your music and help with your studio, because that's it's a growing industry, the podcasts. It's huge. Everybody wants to podcast these days.
Yeah, that was something that I noticed was on the rise, and that was why I was like, that would be a good idea to do that. And then COVID hit, and then
podcasts went. Phew.
They did, but me going to people's houses was not even going to be a thing. So what I did during that time is I started creating just instrumentals and stuff like that.
Jingles.
Yeah, essentially. I mean, I haven't dabbled in jingles yet. I need to try that.
I was thinking about you doing jingles, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean...
And we spoke about you doing some, books and stuff like that, and audio books for people, because, he's definitely a guy to you if you've got an idea. You're going to jingle for your podcast?
Yeah. Music. I'm thinking more like jingles with words, but even that would be fun to do. But yeah, so I've done some for different people. Like I did one for Carolina Kids Gaming on YouTube. You look them up on YouTube. I did their intro.
You did one for Deadly Departed in our magazine.
That's right. Deadly Departed. I made that music. What was it, like a 2-minute track, I think?
It was a 2-minute track. It was really good, actually. And we're launching Deadly Departed again. There's loads of new guests and stuff like that. And this is our signature music. And I'll put that below as well, because it's really catchy. It's exactly what I kind of wanted. It's kind of half paranormal, half it's a bit dark.
Yeah.
It's a bit dark. It's a bit light.
I know you wanted that heavy.
Yeah. I'm a bit of a freaking metalhead, you know.
Well, I got the background for that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I was like, one of the guests I got coming on is I think I told you was working with the Ozzy Osbourne back in the day, and some of the big bands and stuff like Stephen Machat is going to be one of my guests.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
that's going to be really, because we were speaking about as well. But yeah, I was a bit of a metal freak as well, so I like that whole vibe that came in. So it's definitely, if you've got an idea, ladies and gentlemen, for your podcast, or you want some music on the background, he's your man to do it. Actually, we're going to be working together on a few of our own projects on the meditations and stuff like that. But definitely you want to connect with Cliff or Elevate, and the link will be in the show notes and everything else to get your jingles done, or not so much your jingles, but your intro music, or even just some signature music that you need. Because you have, reality is you've been to the darkest roots of your soul, and you've overcome adversity. You've had that, you've picked up your sword, you've been the warrior, and you've really kicked ass on changing your life for the better. And it's just the new beginning for you now. Yeah,
that's true. It's pretty exciting.
What's the vision for you then for Elevate?
Well, I do a lot of things, right? But I think that knowing everything I know, music production really is what I'm good at. So that's really what it's going to be centered around eventually. I'm trying to build a catalog of different people that if I wanted to bring them into the studio, I could do that to record whatever kind of track. Of course, it depends on how what their style is, whether it matches and all that. But that's down the road. Right now, I'm focusing on custom music creation. I'm also doing recording for artists or anybody that wants to record whatever they need to. Most of the time it's vocals, because it's like audiobooks or hip hop artists.
So if someone's out there wants to write a song for their girlfriend or their wife, come and record that, you're the person that's going to help to do that for them.
Yeah, I can help with that. Of course, all the technical aspects, and I'm also well versed at composition and writing and delivery of your performance on the mic. So I will improve and bring your song to its fullest potential.
Even if you can't sing.
Yeah. We're going to auto-tune.
I was going to say, with somebody's they can't hold a note in the bucket. Dude,
Yeah,
I think your wife's going to run.
Yeah, we might have to hire a singer. I don't know. We'll see.
Think of it hypothetically, right? How are you going to break that to them? Dude, you think you can sing? You know?
Oh, well, you know what, man? You'd be amazed with the things I've been able to do with some of the not greatest singers, for the sake of being modest. God
bless auto-tune.
Yeah, it's really like you have auto-tune, which, can sound like T-Pain, and some people just want to sound natural, so there are other programs you can use to make people sound. I'm going to make you sound better. That's the point. So as great as you think your song is, I'll make it sound better.
So, so that's the thing that you need to do. People who have got anniversaries and parties, or even getting engaged or getting married, which at some point these two better get a freaking move on and get on with it. You can essentially do something very unique with the music, and doing something for your girlfriend, your husband, your wife. That's another package that you can offer people.
That's true. I need to get my package game on point, because I really just have like my hourly rate, but I think I need to put some packages together.
Yeah, you definitely need to put some packages, because there's people out there, like I've said to you before as well, there's people out there that just want to come and do something special. They can't maybe afford to go to these big expensive studios, and you're really making their dreams a reality. You're making their objective and their goals, real for them. That puts a smile on the face of everybody else as well. I think that's a fantastic idea for you. And it's certainly podcasting. I think hitting these podcasters definitely says me on the podcast is helping them out. So guys, if you're thinking of starting a podcast and you just want to know how your room and everything should be and where everything should be, then connect with Cliff.
Yeah, do that. The next podcast, my sound will be better, I swear.
He's going to be my guest on a number of the shows that I've got. And so I do not expect any freaking messages to say, dude, he sounds crap. No, he did actually break something. And we have had a bit of a nightmare with the internet.
Yeah.
So we disappeared. So there may be some jumps here and there. So final words from you to everybody who's listening, and how to connect with you, how to reach out and link up with you if they're interested in anything audio related.
Okay, so you can find my website at elevatemusicpro.com. I'm also on Facebook under Elevate Music Production, and Instagram under Elevate Music Production. So that's going to be the best way to contact me. You can also Google Elevate Music Production, and there's a way to contact me there too. And
go and listen to some of the tracks that you've done.
Definitely.
And put out, the very first one you put out, if you want to hear that distinctive sound and vibe from the dark recesses of what he went through, then go and listen to that first one.
So I should mention that that's an artist name. Elevate Music Production is the label, but my artist name for those songs, I released 3 songs on Spotify recently called 7 Years. It's a little EP, but it's under the artist name Clifford Howard. That's where you'll find those on Spotify.
You couldn't think of Jazzy Z or something like that?
No, man. I went through stuff. Dude, I'm like,
Osbourne.
They all have these cool names. I was like, yeah, it doesn't roll off the tongue as well as Ozzy, but but still, that's the thing, man. Like, I sat there thinking, what is my artist name going to be? And I could rack my brain. I went through different things, and I've done this. This isn't the first time I've had to name bands and things like that. It is just a headache, dude. And I was like, you know what? This is me. So, there's always going to be some trend, but I'm always going to be Clifford Howard.
That's outstanding. Cliff, it's been awesome and it's been fun, even with all the breakdowns and everything that we've had. I can't wait to have you on some of the other shows as well. And one last thing I'll say, ladies and gentlemen, connect with him if you want a good vibe for your shows, if you want. And I will vouch for him. The music that we did for our political campaign was absolutely awesome. And, you know, it's within budget. You're not going to be paying the thousands of dollars or everything that, you know, if we go to these big recording studios. And as a bonus, you're helping someone and validating them for the spiritual, the warrior that they've become from changing their life. This guy is an example of how you can go from dark to light. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today on the podcast. Make sure that you sign up and subscribe. I always feel terrible asking that, but just subscribe if you want to. And if you don't, then fine, don't. I don't mind. You'll get us on YouTube. You'll get us on social media. But more than anything else, connect with Elevate Music Productions. God bless.